Good evening, my loves, and welcome back to the Forbidden Glass of Wine. I am your host, Lady Divine, and tonight's letter, it is one that sits heavy in the palm, not sharp with fresh betrayal, not raw with anger, but weighted in a way that makes the heart sigh before the lips ever move. It's a quiet ache, the kind that doesn't shout, it hums. It lingers in the spaces between words, in the pauses after goodnight kisses, in the way two people can sit inches apart, yet live miles away. Our letter comes from a man who loved with his whole chest, fully, consistently, deliberately. He was steady, present, and offering himself not in grand gestures alone, but in the small, everyday ways that truly build a life. And yet, he found himself in a bittersweet place, a space where he was wanted, but never truly needed, where his hands were welcome, but his weight was not invited to rest anywhere. She let me love her, pause, but never needed me. And that, my darlings, is its own kind of loneliness. The kind where the bed is shared, but the burdens are not. Where the love is visible, oh yes, but intimacy never quite crosses the threshold into vulnerability. Where you are a part of someone's life, but not woven into their survival, their surrender, or their quiet confessions. And tonight, we will listen to his heart. We will feel the truth in his words, and we will answer him with voices that have lived on both sides of that divide. Because this isn't just a story about romance. It is about the universal human longing to matter in ways that go beyond the convenient. And before we let his words wash over us, we must choose a companion for this journey. Something deep, unhurried, quietly powerful. The kind of pour that doesn't just fill the glass, but fills the room with its presence. Because the story you're about to hear, my loves, is not one to rush. No, it deserves to be sipped slowly, with the kind of attention you give to a truth you're finally ready to admit. Before we pour tonight's glass, let me leave this thought on your lips. Sometimes the deepest distance isn't measured in miles or even in time. It's measured in the space between a heart that gives and a heart that will not receive. Sit with that for a moment. Let it breathe in the quiet, because tonight the story we share will live in that space, where love is offered like an open hand and yet never fully taken. She let me love her. Let's unwrap the quote of the night. Before we pour tonight's glass, let me leave this thought on your lips. Sometimes, the deepest distance isn't measured in miles or even in time. It's measured in the space between a heart that gives and a heart that will not receive. Sit with that for a moment. Let it breathe in the quiet. Because tonight, the story we share will live in that space, where love is offered like an open hand, and yet never fully taken. Now, our wine pairing for this letter. Tonight we're pouring a wine that understands the art of restraint. Not loud, not showy, a wine that lingers. If your collection is blessed with it, reach for a Bordeaux blend with a generous lean toward Cabernet Franc, or a pure Cabernet Franc if that's what you have on hand. Look at it first. Hold it up to the light. See that dark ruby heart fading to a soft garnet at the edges? Tilt the glass. Notice the slow, graceful legs. Now inhale. Black cherry greets you first, then the hush of cedar, a shadow of tobacco, and that whisper of herbs, the kind that hides in the background, yet you'd miss it if it were gone. This, my loves, is a pour for quiet strength, for love that was allowed, even welcomed, but never leaned upon. Take your first sip. Let it rest on your tongue like an apology that never quite found the door. And now, the letter. Dear Lady Divine, I never thought I'd write something like this, but time hasn't healed what I feel. I was with a woman who let me love her, but she never really needed me. We met in a small coffee and bookstore. From that day, I showed up the way I thought a man should. cooking, filling her gas tank, surprising her just to make her smile. She appreciated it, at least on the surface. But when the real storms came, stress, loss, hard choices, she faced them alone. Not cold, not angry, just quiet. A wall I could never get past. We never fought, but over time, the silence grew. One night, I asked if she needed me. She held my hand and said, "I don't need you. I want you. That's better." At first, it sounded beautiful, but the more I thought about it, the more it felt like she could take me or leave me, and her world wouldn't shift either way. She let me love her, but never needed me. When it ended, it was calm. She thanked me for loving her, wished me happiness, and walked away, steady, tearless, like checking out of a room she had kept neat. So here's my question, Lady Divine. Is it wrong to want to be needed? Or was I with someone who learned long ago that leaning on another is too risky? I don't resent her. I respect her strength. But I miss a love where we carry the weight together. Signed, a man who stayed anyway. My darling. What a gentle, aching truth you've poured into our glass tonight. She let you love her, but she never leaned. And you were willing, hungry even, to hold what slipped through her fingers, yet she would not place it in your hands. Here is something quiet and complicated. Some of us learned early that help is not a gift, but a transaction. That accepting it means you have signed a debt you may never pay back. So we stand on our own feet until our knees shake, and we call that safety. We wear independence like armor, convincing ourselves it is the same as freedom, even when it begins to feel like exile. Independence is beautiful, yes, but when it becomes an alibi for never letting anyone near the soft places, it can turn into a prison with windows that look like strength. We tell ourselves we are protecting our dignity, when in truth, we are protecting our fear. She let me love her, but never needed me. And yet, here is another truth, one I will never stop speaking. Longing to be needed is not weakness. It is not desperation. It is intimacy, reaching out its arms, asking to be included in the everyday weather of a shared life. It is wanting to be more than an ornament in someone's joy, or a spectator to someone's struggle. It is wanting your presence to matter in ways that are felt, not just noticed. This kind of longing is not about ego. It is about connection. It is about being trusted with the weight of someone's reality, not only the glow of their best days. To be needed is to be chosen in a deeper way, not for what you can do, but for what you can hold. So tonight, let us set another place at the table. Let us pour a glass for two voices, one who has been her, one who has been you. We will listen, without rushing to judgment, because in their stories, we may discover the bridge between giving love and letting it be received. My darlings, after a night like this, after letters that pull at the threads of our hearts and voices that leave their warmth in the room, it is only right we close our eyes and sip something more than wine. This is where the glass in your hand meets the truth in your chest, where the notes in your drink linger like the words you wish you'd said sooner. Tonight's wine and wisdom is not just for listening, it's for feeling. Let it move slow, let it seep in. Think of it as the quiet between heartbeats, the place where knowing becomes understanding. Wine and wisdom, love that will not lean, becomes a painting no one is allowed to touch. Beautiful, yes, and lonely too. Let the frame hold the picture. Let the people hold each other. Now, let's pour a glass for a woman who knows the weight of love, without ever allowing herself to lean into it. A woman who has mastered the art of standing on her own, not out of arrogance, but out of long-practiced necessity. The kind of woman who has learned that leaning can sometimes mean falling, and falling can leave scars too deep to measure. She has been loved, fully, fiercely, without condition. Yet she's kept her center of gravity firmly within herself. Not because the man in her life was unworthy, but because she has made self-reliance her shelter. Tonight, she steps forward to answer his letter, not with cruelty, not with guilt, but with the truth as she has lived it. And perhaps in her words, we will hear the echo of every woman who ever held love close, but kept her guard closer.
Lady Divine, I've been that woman. Not because I wanted to be, but because I didn't know any other way. In my house growing up, asking for help was like handing someone a weapon. The moment you leaned, you owed. And I swore I'd never give anyone that kind of power over me. So I learned early, fix your own car, carry your own boxes, cry in the shower where no one can see. Keep the soft parts locked away. Strength wasn't a choice for me, it was survival. Then I met a good man. He wasn't perfect, but he was steady. He did the little things without being asked, changed the oil, brought me soup when I was sick, picked up flowers just because. And I loved him for that. Really loved him. But when life got heavy, I kept my storms to myself. I smiled, told him I was fine, and made sure he believed it. It wasn't that I didn't trust him. It's that I didn't trust need. Need felt dangerous. Need meant losing control. And control was the only thing that ever kept me safe. He once asked me if I needed him, and I said, I want you, isn't that better? And I thought it was. But now I realize that what I was really saying was, I can't let myself lean on you because I don't know how to get back up if you step away. If I could talk to him now, I'd tell him it wasn't about him not being enough. It was about me not knowing how to believe I wouldn't be punished for breaking. I didn't know how to hand over even a piece of my weight without feeling like I'd lose myself. Would I do it differently today? Yeah, I would. I'd start small. Ask him to come with me to something I didn't want to face alone. Admit I'm not okay, but I just need you to sit with me while I figure it out. Not a collapse. Just a little leaning. To the women listening who get this, needing someone doesn't erase who you are. And to the men who feel like they're never truly let in, it's not always about you doing more. Sometimes it's about her learning that it's safe to let go. And that's a slow process, but when it happens, it changes everything. Asterisk.
To our sister who spoke, thank you for untying that knot in public so others can breathe. That was a gift. And to you, my letter writer, hear the truth she named. Sometimes the distance isn't against you. It was built long before you. It's not a wall you inspired. It's a wall she learned to live behind, long before your name was ever on her lips. If this love is still breathing, here is a path you can try. Replace what's wrong with how would you like me to be with you right now? Replace do you need me with where can I stand beside you today? Those questions carry no judgment. They carry an open door, offer small anchors, rituals that become invitations instead of intrusions. Walks where the phones stay in pockets. A weekly exchange where you each share one win and one wait, so neither joy nor struggle is ever carried alone. A gentle, are you carrying something by yourself? Whispered in the kitchen when the night is still and no one else can hear. And, my dear, remember this. It's not always the grand gestures that open the gate. Sometimes it's the little offerings, repeated over time, that soften a guard. A cup of tea left quietly on the desk when the day's been long. A hand resting, not gripping, on the back as you pass in the hallway. A simple, I'm here, no fixing, just here. But if after all of that, she still cannot or will not place even a pebble in your palm, then hear this without shame or bitterness. You are allowed to want a love that lets you be necessary. Not because she cannot stand on her own, but because two steady hearts feel safer than one. Love is not only about holding your own weight. It is also about trusting someone else to hold a little of it when the load gets heavy. And when that trust is never given, you are allowed to decide that what you need is not too much. It's just not what she can give. Now, a second pour from a man who has stood where our writer stands and kept standing long after his knees ached. A man who knows what it is to carry love like a steady flame, even when the person across from him never reached out their hands to warm themselves by it. He has waited, patiently at first, then with the quiet ache of someone realizing the wait might outlast the welcome. He understands what it means to give without being asked, to watch the person he loves move through storms without once calling his name. Tonight, he isn't here to tell us how to win someone over. He's here to speak about what happens when you stop trying to be the reason they lean and start deciding whether your own heart deserves more than a polite distance.
Lady Divine, I know exactly what that man is talking about because I've been in his shoes. I was in a relationship where I gave and gave, thinking that if I kept showing up, if I kept making life a little easier, she'd eventually let me in all the way. But she didn't. She appreciated me, sure. She'd tell me I was good to her. She'd thank me for what I did. But when something was really wrong, she kept it to herself. At first, I took that personally. I thought it meant I wasn't man enough, or that she didn't see me as someone she could count on. But after a while, I realized it wasn't about me not being enough. It was about her not trusting anyone to be her shelter. She was used to relying on herself. That was how she stayed in control. I had to ask myself a hard question. Did I love her for who she was, or was I hoping she'd eventually become someone who needed me? That was tough to face. When I finally stopped trying to make myself necessary and focused on just being present, things shifted a little. I invited her into small moments of leaning. I'd say, "Hey, pick one thing you don't like doing and let me take it over for a while." Or I'd open up about my own bad days, tell her when I needed a hug or when I was feeling worn down. It didn't magically fix everything. In my case, it didn't save the relationship. But it taught me something important, that sometimes wanting to be needed comes from a place in us that learned a long time ago that our value is in what we can do for someone. And that's dangerous if it's the only way we measure love. To the man who wrote in, you're not wrong for wanting to matter, but make sure you're not trying to earn love through services. You deserve someone who wants you to be close just because it's you, not just because you're helpful. And if she can't or won't meet you halfway, then maybe the kindest thing you can do for both of you is to step away and find the kind of connection where your presence, not just your effort, is welcome.
To our brother, thank you for speaking that tender truth out loud. There is a certain bravery in admitting the 8 you've carried quietly and in letting the rest of us hear the sound of it. And to you, my letter writer, listen for the melody woven through both voices tonight. One voice sang of independence built from survival, the other of love given without always being welcomed in. Together, they are telling you this: you are not wrong for wanting to be needed. But do not confuse being needed with being loved. Need can feel intoxicating, like a rope pulling you into someone's life, wrapping you in purpose. But sometimes, that rope is made of circumstance, not the roots of devotion. When the rope frays, you are left with your hands empty and your heart still hungry. Instead, ask for presence, not performance. Ask for access, not accidents. Say to her, I don't want to be your emergency contact. I want to be your everyday. Let her know that your love is not about saving her, but about standing with her, whether the seas are calm or the waves are high. If she looks back at you with eyes that never go deeper than the surface, believe what that gaze is telling you. If the words stay polite but never personal, if the doors never truly open, you are learning something about the limits of her reach. Love, my darlings, is a living thing. It requires oxygen. If it never breathes on you, If it never lets you breathe into it, it will slowly smother you while still looking perfectly serene from the outside. You are allowed, no, you are entitled to a love that lets you be an answer. Not the only answer, not a savior, not a solution to a puzzle you never built, but a chosen, trusted, everyday answer. The kind where your presence is not a convenience, but a comfort. Where your name is not a last resort, but a first thought. And remember, sometimes the truest measure of love is not how much you are needed in a crisis, but how welcome you are in the quiet, ordinary spaces where nothing is broken. My loves, we are not here to hunt for villains or to keep score. We are here to find vocabulary for the tenderness we were never taught to speak. Some of us were raised to believe that love equals usefulness, that our value is measured in what we can fix, carry, or solve. Others were taught that safety equals solitude, that the only way to stay whole is to never lean, never ask, never risk being caught in someone else's shadow. But both of those lessons, as protective as they may seem, can quietly starve a heart. Because love in its truest form is not a barter of services or a fortress with the drawbridge raised. It is a shared table, a steady hand, an unspoken agreement that you don't have to hold the whole world alone. Tonight, we learn a new word together: togetherness. Not ownership, not rescue, not dependency that drains the spirit. Togetherness that says, I will stand beside you in the light and in the shadows. Togetherness that allows each of us to keep our own shape, yet still fit inside a shared space where the air feels easier to breathe. Quote of the night: love without presence is abandonment wearing a beautiful outfit. Let us not forget your divine reminder for tonight. Do not wait for silence to turn into goodbye. Do not wait for a letter to say what your mouth can say with kindness tonight. Ask to be let in. Offer a place to lean. If the door stays locked forever, you are still worthy of a home where your presence is asked for by name. Love does not grow stronger in the dark. It withers. If you feel the light dimming, tend to it now while the embers are still warm. Speak the words that feel too small to matter, because they are often the ones that keep the bridge intact. And remember, my darling, your worth is not measured by how much of yourself you can give without return. It is measured by the fact that you are here, open and willing. Two strangers poured their truth into our glass tonight. One who has stood in the doorway with open hands. One who has stood behind a wall with gentle eyes. Both hungry for a love that feels like a room where the chairs are pulled out and the lights are warm. Here is what we will take with us. Needing is not weakness. Independence is not indifference. But love that never breathes on you will slowly ask you to stop breathing too. Choose a love that invites, that includes, that makes space for the ordinary ways a person becomes home to another. The morning coffee without a word. The steady hand at the small of your back when the world feels too loud. The unspoken promise that says, if you call my name, I will answer. If you have loved someone who would not lean, bless them and bless the road that taught them to stand. And then bless yourself by finding a place where your arms are not always reaching, but sometimes being reached for. If you are someone who will not lean, bless your strength. And then consider, just for a moment, how it might feel to set down 1 ounce of your day into the hands of someone who has proven, softly and consistently, that they will not drop it. Let them prove that love can be a shared weight and not a quiet performance of survival. When the wine is gone and the night grows still, she will not remember the electricity bill you paid on time or the hinges you oiled. She will remember whether your presence settled the room and whether your voice felt like a place to be. And you, my darling writer, will remember whether you were allowed to matter in the way your heart was made to matter. Do not barter usefulness for love. Do not trade your need to be needed for your need to be seen. Ask for both, offer both, and if both cannot live here, go where they can. Sip what remains. Let your shoulders lower. Let the last of this story teach you the difference between being appreciated and being embraced. One is applause. The other is home. And my darlings, you deserve a home. And my darlings, you know I can't let you leave without a dare for your heart. Something to nudge you past comfort into that place where connection grows bold. Tonight's divine dare is not for the faint, it's for the willing. And now for our divine dare. This week, practice one small need, no crisis required. Ask the person you love for a simple kind of closeness. Say, walk with me tonight. Say, will you choose the music while I make dinner? Say, tell me one thing you don't want to carry alone anymore. And if you are the one who never leans, choose a pebble and place it softly in their palm, not because you cannot lift it, but because you deserve to feel what it's like to be helped without owing a debt. Next week, we open a letter about staying too long in a room where the door was always half open, and the quiet courage it takes to walk away. Not in rage, not in bitterness, but with reverence for your own breath. It's a story about recognizing when the welcome has worn thin, when your roots need richer soil, and how to leave with your dignity intact and your heart still capable of wonder. Bring a glass you love. Bring the heart you live in. We'll be gentle with both. We'll laugh a little, maybe sigh a little. And as always, we will sip slowly, because some truths are too important to rush. Until we meet again, my loves, keep your glass full, your heart open, and your presence louder than silence. Protect the softness that the world tries to harden. Pour into those who pour into you. And remember, every goodbye is also a doorway to somewhere you have not yet been. This is Lady Divine, and you have been listening to the Forbidden Glass of Wine. Until the next pour, I am here, holding the seat beside me just for you.